Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
Our marriage started with a burning love, and our kids grew up great. As time passed, our youth faded, but my feelings for Carter, my husband, were always more than just love. Yet, we'd lost our spark ages ago, and now, even calling ourselves a couple felt strange. Honestly, I couldn't even remember the last time we'd felt that heat between us. One night at 10 p.m., only the faint hum of the TV filled the living room. Carter and I sat on the same sofa, never looking at each other. Just two empty coffee cups and a long, heavy silence separated us. I hated how the house went silent every night, our love slowly suffocating in that cold air. Carter, when did we get like this? It's just the two of us in this big house, but why is it so quiet? My voice echoed hollowly. Carter replied without even glancing my way, "That's just how it is when you get older, Aria. The kids are all grown and out of the house. It's time to settle into an easy life." I chuckled softly. Easy, maybe? But I'm lonely. You and I were more like roommates than a married couple. Carter kept fiddling with the remote, his eyes glued to the screen. His indifference finally pushed me to speak up. Like a last-ditch effort, I wondered if this strange idea might be the only thing that could shake us awake. So, what if we tried to be like we used to? Just for fun, like a little role play. Carter snorted, a laugh escaping him. Are you kidding me? Role-playing at our age? That's ridiculous. I know, but we've drifted so far apart. Wouldn't it be okay to be a little weird just this once? My voice was desperate. I slowly forced a smile in the mirror. Carter turned his head and looked at me for the first time. Our eyes met briefly, and his seemed to hold a deep, old loneliness. So, what exactly do you want to do? Carter's voice had a hint of curiosity. A few days later, I set the scene for our first roleplay. A white blouse, a plaid skirt, and an old hairpin. It felt a bit goofy for a high school student scenario, but that evening, Carter came home a little earlier than usual. As the front door opened and he stepped inside, I greeted him playfully, almost in a child's voice. "Hi, I'm home." Carter froze for a second, then let out a chuckle. Wow, I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. All right, let's give it a shot. That night, we laughed together for the first time in ages. It was a little awkward, but there was definitely a forgotten excitement bubbling beneath the surface. What we didn't know was if this roleplay would bring us closer or slowly tear us apart. The next morning, my face was still a little flushed. I felt embarrassed, but also, strangely, a sense of accomplishment. Carter's smile the night before had truly been a rare sight. Who knew role-playing could make us laugh like that? Could this really change things, bit by bit? I wondered. As I made breakfast in the kitchen, Carter sat at the table, quieter than usual. He glanced at me subtly, then blurted out that last night it wasn't bad. I laughed more than I expected. I smiled faintly and replied, "I haven't seen you laugh like that in ages either. Want to try something like that again?" Carter didn't answer, just quietly spooned his soup. His eyes were different from the day before. Yesterday, it seemed like a game, but today, they were a little more serious, deeper. A subtle anticipation mixed with his gaze as he stared intently at me. That night, I recreated our first meeting. A 90s floral dress, a small crossbody bag, and a homemade sandwich lunchbox as I waited for Carter. "Hi, I'm new to this blind date thing," I said shyly. Carter chuckled and played along, but his gaze was clearly different from before. His eyes slowly scanned my figure, and his voice became low and slow. "It's been a long time since a date like this. But tonight, how about a drink with me instead of sandwiches?" The roleplay felt more and more real, and Carter seemed more focused on the emotions and eye contact than on the lines. I was flustered, but I couldn't stop him. As night deepened and we drifted off to sleep, leaning on each other on the sofa, Carter's fingertips quietly found my hand. That touch made my heart pound. Carter whispered in my ear, "What scenario are we doing tomorrow?" "Whatever you want," I said, but a corner of my heart felt heavy and anxious. A chilling premonition told me this game might soon slip out of my control. A few days later, I found a small box on the bed. It was nicely wrapped, and it had been an incredibly long time since Carter had put so much effort into wrapping a gift. Inside the box were a tight, dark red mini dress, a faux leather choker, and dizzying high heels. A note lay with them. "Tonight, come to me as a stranger. How about a role as a high-end club hostess?" I stared at them blankly for a long time. Now, it's not even my choice. But why can't I say no? I wanted to refuse, but the words just wouldn't come out. A strange sense of obligation, mixed with curiosity about where this game would end, compelled me. That night, I transformed perfectly into the woman Carter desired. A short, tight dress, intense red lipstick, and unfamiliar perfume. My reflection in the mirror was no longer Aria, but a fantasy created by someone else's deep desire. The living room was shrouded in darkness, and Carter slumped deep in his armchair. The moment he saw me, his eyes completely changed. They gleamed like those of a hungry beast. "Welcome. The boss is waiting for you." Carter's voice was low and sinister. I forced a smile and played along, but his tone, his gaze, every gesture felt incredibly real. When did this man change so much? Or was he always like this? The roleplay continued even after it was supposed to end. At the dinner table, in the bedroom, Carter acted more like someone deeply immersed in an imaginary role than my husband. A few days later, I found another note in Carter's drawer. It read, "You are no longer just my wife. You are the woman I create." Breakfast was on the table, prepared by me. Carter sat down as usual and unfolded his newspaper. But that day, I was quiet. I didn't sit at the table. I just stood in the kitchen, silently watching him. "Carter, let's talk for a moment." My voice was low. Carter took his eyes off the newspaper and said, "What about?" "Lately, it feels like you're only assigning me roles. Am I not enough as myself?" I asked, looking directly into his eyes. Carter slowly folded the newspaper. A brief moment of embarrassment and a strange distance flickered in his eyes. "That's not it, Aria. I just wanted to have fun with you." "No, it's not just fun. You're treating me like your doll now." My voice was firm. That night, I declared I wouldn't do the roleplay. "Tonight, I just want us to be ourselves. Let's not do anything." Carter was silent for a moment. His expression was resolute. Then he approached me and said in a low voice, "You started this, didn't you? Now I can't want anything." His voice held an inexplicable pressure. I was surprised and said, "What do you mean?" "I just wanted our relationship to get better." Carter remained silent, and that silence was far more pressing than words. After a moment, he leaned in again and whispered, "Aria, next time, how about you do it with someone else? I'll just watch from the side." I froze. Chills ran down my spine. "What did you just say?" The living room was filled with a chilling silence. The TV was off, and only the loud ticking of the clock could be heard. I walked silently into the room and closed the door. Beyond that door, Carter still sat there. His eyes, now free from any pretense of acting, were filled with a cold, unfamiliar possessiveness. A gaze as if I were a mere creation trapped in his private world. Days passed. I couldn't shake my husband's words, "I want to see you with someone else." It felt less like a joke or a mere fantasy and more like a chilling plan. Does he truly love me? Or am I just a tool to stimulate him? I was tormented by these questions every night. Laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, his cold eyes would haunt me, each swirl of the ceiling fan a reminder of his chilling control. That evening, Carter casually brought up the subject over dinner. About what I said the other day, I meant it. I don't intend to force you. But don't you? It's because I want you even more. His voice held a subtle desire. I couldn't take it anymore. If you love me, why can't you express it any other way? Why do you have to push me this far? Carter didn't answer. I realized he wasn't going crazy, but deliberately shaking me. His silence seemed to push me deeper into an abyss. That night, I was drinking whiskey, a smartphone in one hand, a trembling glass in the other. After a moment's hesitation, I finally sent a text message. My message read, "Aaron, long time no see. Can you spare some time?" The next day, I met my old friend Aaron at an unfamiliar cafe. He was once a man who made my heart flutter. Aaron, with his quiet and kind demeanor, smiled brightly, unaware of anything amiss. "Aria, what's wrong? You don't look good." I forced a smile, avoiding his worried gaze. "Can you come to my place?" "Just for a bit. Maybe stay for dinner." At 9 p.m., Carter was sitting in the living room. The door opened, and Aaron and I entered together. "Honey, this is Aaron. We're having dinner together tonight." I tried to sound nonchalant. Carter masked his expression and said, "Nice to meet you." His eyes briefly scanned Aaron, then returned to me, gleaming with a strange anticipation. An odd tension thickened the air throughout dinner. Aaron's forced laughter echoed a little too loudly, while Carter's gaze remained unnervingly still as he sipped his wine, and I quietly poured mine. Under the table, my knee trembled imperceptibly. While Aaron was in the bathroom for a moment, I spoke to Carter in a low voice. My eyes were like ice, my words sharp and cutting. "You wanted this, didn't you? To see me with another man. You wanted me to really do it. If that's what it takes for you to feel me, then fine. Let's do it." My voice was filled with cold resolve. Something inside me felt like it was breaking. The wine glasses on the table emptied one by one. Formal conversation, awkward laughter. Aaron's face showed a subtle anxiety along with his discomfort. I put down my spoon and slowly got up. "Aaron, shall we go to the room and talk for a bit?" Aaron flinched and looked at me. Okay." He followed me. In the bedroom, facing a strange man, I wore an expression I could hardly believe myself. Aaron looked at me with concern. "Aria, what are you doing right now? This isn't like you." I didn't avoid his gaze and said, "Just stay still. He's watching." My gaze was directed through the slightly ajar door to Carter's eyes, fixed on us from the darkness. His eyes pierced us relentlessly. My lips trembled, my fingertips were cold, and my eyes were red-rimmed. This isn't acting. This isn't me. This is the woman created by that man's desire. I'm becoming his puppet on his stage. Aaron looked at me with a worried expression and said, "You really don't have to do this. Let's escape, even now. I'll help you." I smiled at his words. Looking at Aaron with tired eyes, I said, "It's too late. I'm just curious to see how far this goes." My voice was mixed with resignation and despair. All of this felt like an irreversible current. Carter sat on the sofa. There was no emotion in his eyes. Instead, he was eerily quiet and expressionless. It wasn't anticipation, but pure possessiveness. This woman is now within my world. Completely. No physical acts happened between the three of us that night, but for me, it was a night where everything collapsed. Carter enjoyed my immersion in the situation, and Aaron was flustered. I felt my existence fading amidst their gazes. Carter's gaze seemed to explore me, revealing a strong desire to bring me under his control. His eyes gleamed as if he completely understood and possessed me. The next morning, I sat alone in bed. Aaron had left, and Carter was getting ready for work. Carter said, Let's make it just you and me tonight." A subtle anticipation was back in his voice. I replied emotionlessly, "Sure, let's start acting again." My voice was empty. At night, jazz music played in the living room, and Carter had prepared dinner, waiting for me. 2 wine glasses, a single candle, and a role-play outfit were laid out. Carter said, "How about a setting where we're meeting for the first time at a hotel lounge? You're in a fancy dress, and I'm a man who falls for you at first sight." I replied spiritlessly, "Sure, whatever you want." I picked up the dress without a word and went into the bedroom. My hands moved mechanically as I changed in front of the mirror, my expression blank. If this is love, have I become a doll who loves? Where did my will go? The roleplay became increasingly daring. Carter dictated lines and orchestrated situations, even getting annoyed if I didn't react. Is that a reaction? Immerse yourself. You're a woman meeting a man behind her husband's back. Your eyes should be different. Look at me with more desire, more intensely. Hearing those words, I stopped. At that moment, I lifted my head and looked directly at Carter. "You seem to know very well what kind of look makes your heart flutter, what kind of clothes satisfy you." How amazing! My voice was tinged with sarcasm. Carter seemed flustered and said, "What do you mean by that?" "The woman I am now is the woman you created. A woman who exists only in your fantasy." I retorted coldly. He couldn't say anything. That night, lying in bed, I thought to myself, I am erasing myself now. I am slowly eliminating my original self to fit someone else's desires. There's nothing left inside me now. Carter mistakenly believed that my growing compliance was due to him being loved more. He seemed to believe that my expressionless eyes and mechanical reactions were true love. Carter smiled and said, "How about we swap with another couple next time? It might be fun to actually meet them." I took a sip of coffee with no expression. "Sure, whatever you want." My voice held no emotion whatsoever. At night, the bedroom was dark with only a small lamp cutting through the gloom. I sat on the edge of the bed. In my hand was a small note that looked like today's roleplay script. Today, resort staff and guest. Don't make eye contact, just take the money. I felt nothing anymore. My mind was empty, and my body was like a machine waiting for commands. I folded the note, put it in a small drawer, and slowly changed my clothes. A pretty blouse, a short skirt, and an expressionless face. My reflection in the mirror was unfamiliar. Carter was already sitting in a corner of the room. His eyes gleamed with a mix of excitement and desire. I walked towards him and simply bowed my head without a word. Carter said in a pleasant voice, "Good expression. You're really getting into it now." I didn't answer. He pulled me into his arms. His rough breath brushed my ear, and his hot lips traced my neck. He pushed me onto the bed, roughly tearing off my clothes. His hands grew more intense, and his movements as he explored my body were like a hungry beast. The moment his body covered mine and entered me, I counted the patterns on the ceiling. There was no emotion, no pain, no pleasure, all feeling, all sensation had vanished. Only his harsh breathing and the weight of his body pressed against me were real. The peak of pleasure was entirely his, and I lay there like an empty shell, my soul already far away. Even after the roleplay was over, I offered no touch, no eye contact, no conversation. He held me, but I didn't move. I lay there like a plant. If this is love, then this is violence given to me. He doesn't even know I've closed my heart. He thinks he's loved even more. I felt no emotion even as he took my body, only something inside me dying, piece by excruciating piece. The next day, I opened a small notebook. Inside, dates, settings, dialogue, and Carter's reactions were meticulously recorded. At first, I thought this record was saving me. Now I know this record will destroy him. Carter proposed another scenario. This time, I think it'd be okay if you were really with a strange man. In fact, it excites me. I think I'd be even more excited watching you with another man. I looked at him without any reaction. It doesn't matter what expression I make now, does it? All you see in your eyes is your fantasy, not me, right? That's the problem. You're not interested in me anymore. You're only interested in your fantasies. My voice was filled with deep disappointment and resignation. On a rainy afternoon, I was alone at home. I opened the notebook on the small desk in my room and wrote on the last page, Day 53. Today's setting. New actress auditioning. I feel nothing. His behavior after the immersion ended, he actually thought I was a Real actress. 7 minutes of hugging, 3 kisses. Aria's record ends. I put down the pen and closed the notebook. Then, slowly, I said, that's enough. The recording is over, and the reckoning has begun. A cold smile touched my lips. That night, Carter pulled out another outfit and said excitedly, how about you're a model today and I'm your sponsor? An indoor photo shoot concept on a rainy day. I looked at him for a moment and then nodded. Okay, I'll get ready. But that day, I secretly installed a small camera in the living room. The lens was aimed at the sofa, the bedroom door, and the table where the roleplay usually took place. My body moved like a machine. A few days later, I was organizing the saved videos on my laptop. Dates, situations, dialogues, reactions. Everything was meticulously arranged, like legal documents. If it were love, I might have forgiven it. But this was an insult to me. Control disguised as love, something more than that. He destroyed me, and now it's time for him to pay. That evening, Carter, drunk, said to me, you're really the best these days, Aria. You give me everything I want. Why couldn't you do this before? If you just keep doing this, I'll love you forever. His voice was mixed with satisfaction and a strange sense of superiority. I smiled coldly. I know, I didn't realize either. It's so easy when all I have to do is what you tell me. Like a puppet. My eyes were those of someone who had already calculated everything. I quietly left the lawyer's office. In my wallet were voice recordings, video captures, and a meticulously organized schedule. I bought a cup of coffee in silence. The bitter taste of coffee spread in my mouth. This isn't blackmail. This is a record. This is fact, and above all, this is closure. A cold closure to our ended relationship. That night, Carter had prepared a new outfit for me. This time, it was a nurse's uniform. I picked up the clothes without a word and went into the bedroom. And I installed another camera inside the living room ceiling light where my husband was. During the roleplay, Carter began to use harsh words and actions beyond the script. His touch grew increasingly rough, and he handled me as if my feelings didn't matter at all. He tore my clothes, pressed down on my body, and unleashed his desires without restraint. I accepted it without any emotion. Like a meticulous observer, I moved myself. My body moved according to his commands, but my soul watched him more resolutely than ever. Even as his desires dominated me, I simply watched and recorded. Everything inside me was frozen. After the roleplay ended, Carter lit a cigarette with a satisfied look and said, "You're completely mine these days. It was funny at first, but now you're truly amazing. You even look younger than before. You're in the palm of my hand now, Aria." I retorted coldly, "Remember those words. Someday, they might be used as evidence." Carter scoffed, "Oh, what kind of threat is that?" "You're just joking." A few days later, I sent the final documents to my lawyer. The contents were simple: 58 records of sexual dominance acts, 17 video acquisitions, 6 statements and voice recordings from Aria herself, attached psychological counseling records. And a final memo: "This is not love, it's a breach of contract. I was a wife and an actress, and now I am the subject of a contract." All of this is my pain recorded by his desires. When Carter woke up that morning, he felt something was off. I was smiling, but there was no emotion in that smile. Rather, I looked like someone waiting for something. Carter asked, "Why do you seem more immersed than me lately? You prepare things without me even asking." A subtle uneasiness was mixed in his voice. I smiled. Was I? Well, it is your stage, so I just stand there, like a puppet moving according to the script. Carter's mind reeled. At first, he had been in control, but now it felt like I was controlling everything. A few days later, I spoke. "Carter, you know I've been going to counseling, right? I've kept all the records. Dates and details too, just in case you need them. All of this will be evidence." Carter was flustered and said, "Records for what?" "If you're having a hard time, just talk to me." His face turned pale. I calmly said, "So now, instead of talking, we'll use documents." Words disappear, but evidence remains. And that evidence will judge you. That night, I handed Carter an envelope. Inside, the first page read, "Non-consensual sexual control and emotional manipulation repeated over 53 times. Clear confirmation of victim Aria's distinct lack of autonomy. Attached pattern analysis of control and dominant behavior. Voice files, text messages, and some video screenshots." Carter shouted at me, "What is this? Are you threatening me? What kind of game is this?" He threw the documents down, his face filled with rage. I said calmly and firmly, "No. This is a summary of the story you created. I've held back my emotions for too long to write them down. This is the price for all the violence you inflicted upon me." Carter was speechless. He looked at me properly for the first time. And he realized. The protagonist of this stage was no longer him, and his wife was the director who had quietly switched the script. Despair colored his face. I pulled out a piece of paper from the desk. A draft of the divorce petition. My face was calm, my eyes expressionless. There was no emotion left in my eyes. Finally, I opened my notebook and wrote the last line. 12 weeks, total 28 role plays. Immersion rate 98%. Moments of sincerity 0. That night, Carter sat in front of me with a glass of wine. He smiled as if nothing had happened, though his voice trembled. "Aria, let's go back to the beginning. No more role-playing, just us as husband and wife. I'm scared now, too. Please, let's start over." I replied coldly, "It's too late. You've wasted too many scenes. And as of today, your lines are over. You broke me, and now it's time for you to pay the price." Carter stood up, flustered. "What's wrong, Aria? It's just a matter of emotions running high. We're married. You enjoyed it too, didn't you? We were married. But now the contract is over, the role is over, and I, as a person, no longer exist in your world. You've lost me," I said firmly. There was not a trace of wavering in my voice. A few days later, Carter arrived home and found a package. It contained a USB drive with my recordings for counseling records and a bundle of documents. And a handwritten note, "I have finished my role. I did everything you wanted. Now, please let me go too. The me you broke is now leaving to find her own life." Carter sank to the floor. He sat blankly, holding the USB drive, and for the first time, truly cried. Carter sat in the empty living room. The sunlight streaming through the curtains was warm, but the room was cold and quiet. On the desk, the documents and notebook I had left behind. The meticulous records within them. He turned page after page, reading. "You didn't love me. You loved your desires. And I moved according to the script of those desires. I was your doll, and now that doll no longer dances. Why didn't you say anything then? You smiled and went along with it, and I thought it was all sincere. I really didn't know." Carter murmured to himself, his voice laced with confusion and regret. He sat in the living room and played an old video. The video showed me performing roles with an expressionless face. He seemed to finally truly see that gaze. That gaze of sadness, resignation, and finally, blankness. He realized then how cruel he had been to Aria, how he had trampled her soul. A few days later, Carter went to a counseling session. In the unfamiliar, quiet room, the counselor asked him, "Why are you here?" Carter said with a trembling voice, "My wife left. But she didn't just leave. I made her act, and eventually I made her disappear because of me. I destroyed her." His face was contorted with guilt, a raw, painful admission. At that moment, I was volunteering at a small local library. Surrounded by the gentle sounds of children reading books, a quiet peace enveloped me. I was smiling silently. No more role-playing, no more acting. At this moment, I was the real Aria. My soul was free, and genuine peace radiated from my face. That night, Carter lay alone in bed and sent me a message. "I'm very late, but I'm truly sorry. I should have seen you as a person, not just a wife. I think I finally understand how much you must have hurt by my side." I read the message but didn't reply. Instead, I flipped my phone over, slowly turned off the light, and lay down. The message no longer held any power over me. Spring was coming. I started a writing class at a small community center. I quietly took a seat in the classroom and opened my notebook. Now, I'm not reading someone else's script. I'm writing the sentences of my own life. Only my story. I was still quiet, but my face bore a different sense of ease and firmness than before. And I didn't avoid anyone's gaze. My eyes were confident, and my voice was filled with conviction. Carter, on the other hand, spoke less and less. He couldn't concentrate on work, and my words kept coming back to him. "The woman I am now is the woman you created. But the next me will be created by me." His mind was filled with regret and emptiness. One afternoon, Carter happened to see me sitting on a bench outside the community center. I was reading a book, peaceful in the sunlight and sometimes laughing. That woman was not the Aria he had lived with. She was a completely different person now, the real Aria, who wasn't playing any role. Carter watched me from afar, took a step closer, then stopped. And he quietly turned away. She shone brighter without me. The more I tried to cage her, the freer she became. That night, Carter sent me a final message. "If you're smiling now, that's enough. The last role I can play is to disappear from your stage. I wish you happiness, Aria." I read the message, and again, there was no reply. But I quietly looked out the window and smiled softly. His role was truly over now. Today, after finishing my writing class, I was quietly drinking coffee alone at a cafe near the community center. A short sentence was typed on my laptop screen. The protagonist of the story was the one who protected herself until the very end. The one who overcame all pain and found her own light. I slowly looked up and out the window. The world was still busy and noisy, but my gaze remained serene amidst it all. My heart was at peace, and endless possibilities lay before me. Meanwhile, Carter was packing his belongings. My traces disappeared from every corner of the room, leaving only an unfamiliar silence in their place. I didn't love my wife. I just tried to trap her in my own way. I was destroying her soul. He opened my notebook one last time. The last page read, "The acting is over. I live as myself now, and no one will ever write my lines again. I am myself." A few days later, I was introduced as the invited lecturer for a special lecture on writing women's self-narratives at the library. A small lecture hall, a humble beginning, but a dignified voice. For a long time, I only read someone else's lines. My feelings, my thoughts didn't matter. But now I want to live by reading sentences written in my own voice. My life, my story. After finishing the lecture, I sat on a sun-drenched bench. Someone sent me a text message. "Watching. It was wonderful. Goodbye for real now." I gently put down my phone, looked up, and said, "Yes, goodbye for real now." No shadows of the past could hold me back anymore. I was truly free.